It is January 2nd, 2007? 18. 2018. Morning, everybody. So, took a couple weeks off. I don't know if, how familiar you are with my posting schedule, but so you all know, this time next year, I will disappear again for about 2 weeks. Definitely a week. Usually it's right after Christmas, up through New Year's. When I was in Europe, like that was like called Christmas week or something, Boxing Day or whatever, but it was like this week-long Christmas celebration when I was in the UK and Germany, and just for me, it's like my time away. So I don't even post on the internet and stuff. So I just step away from everything and enjoy life. I do work though. I try not to, but this year I got a couple contracts, and one is for concept art for a game company, and just, while everyone else over there is taking the week off, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to use my time to get ahead of the schedule there and kind of get up to speed on their project, and try to produce some art that they're happy with. So that's pretty much what I did. I did that and watched some anime with my wife. We finished. What did we finish? We finished Made in Abyss. I watched that twice because I love it. I gotta do my like top 10 favorite anime. Sometime soon. I'll probably start that list. I finished the first season of Konosuba, which is a fun anime. A lot of sexual humor, but it's a pretty fun universe. So, enjoyed that. Finished Food Wars season 3, so that's good. Season 3 part 1. Clearly, they're like, we're coming back in April for the rest. I'm like, son of a bitch. I also watched the documentary on Netflix, The Toys That Made Us, which by their theme song says it's an 8-part series, but there's only 4 parts up right now. So I watched the 4 parts, which is basically the behind the scenes story of how like some of the more popular 80s toys got made in their histories. So the first episode was Star Wars, and the second episode was Barbie. The third episode was Masters of the Universe. And the fourth episode was G.I. Joe. So it got me thinking, like, I went and, first off, the documentary's pretty cool. You really meet a lot of the people that made the toys and designed them and stuff, and got to get the back, inside story on how they got approved to get made, the financials. I don't want to spoil too much for those that haven't seen it. But I'll say this isn't really a spoiler, but Lucas didn't make as much on those Star Wars toys as you'd think. And He-Man made a tremendous amount of money, like way more than I ever thought it really did. So I recommend you go check out on Netflix the Toys That Made Us. And I'm hoping for the next 4 parts. Obviously, they cover Transformers. I'd like to see Thundercats. The Ghostbusters toys were pretty amazing for a while. And the Turtles. The Turtles toys would be fantastic. So, also Rainbow Bright, My Little Pony. My Little Pony was a big fucking deal. Cabbage Patch. Look, I don't know about you guys, but Cabbage Patch, when those came out in 384. I can't remember. As the first time I saw grown women fight, grown adults fight at a shopping mall, like a store. Like my mom got into it with a lady over a Cabbage Patch doll. So, yeah. But it got me thinking about my history with Christmas, right? And like the different things that I went through and far back as I can remember. So I started making a list, and you get a little iffy on the years as you get younger. Even though I can remember like a way back in my childhood, I have a hard time pinning the years down. So I started with like a year I definitely knew, 1996, which was the Christmas I worked at a toy store, Playco. And then I worked my way back to the earliest Christmas I can remember, which turned out to be 1981. So, and that was, let's see, I was 1, 2, 3 years old in 1981. So let me just start there. So this is going to be Rob's Christmas memories, good and bad, folks, but here's how it goes. So the earliest Christmas I remember is 1981. And it was my mother, myself, and my stepfather we lived in this apartment in Claremont in San Diego called the Blue Roost. And if you go to Claremont, there is it's a good landmark. There's an IHOP that's still there. And this really old ass building called like the Ivory. It's called like Ivory Towers or some stupid shit like that. And there's a C's candy factory that's been there since forever. C's Candy. So there was this little apartment complex back there, and I remember the Christmas because we got this Playmobil. I got this Playmobil. Playmobil was a company that makes like preschool toys, right? So they made this car that looked like the Flintstones mobile, where you sat in it. It was red with like a yellow top, and you pushed it. So it was like the Flintstones car for me. And that was like my big gift that year. I got that. I remember my dad tried to fit in it, and I mean, it's fucking ridiculous. There's photos of it I've since found. I also remember getting a bunch of just, goofy little inflatable toys and stuff like that. I wanted to go to Disneyland, which my parents did, but that was that. So that was 3 years old. I have a pretty good memory though. Like I remember earlier than that, but that's the first Christmas I can say, hey, Flintstones car. Still a single kid at that time. The next year, 1982, we moved from the Blue Roost to Lakeside. My dad bought his house using his VA loan. So that was the first Christmas we had inside our own home. And we had a Christmas tree that year, which was really nice. We didn't have a Christmas tree in the Blue Roost, but we had a Christmas tree here. And my dad got the AT from Empire Strikes Back. So that was he got that, and I didn't really get. I think I got like a Speak and Spell. I got Light Bright, shitload of Light Bright stuff and coloring books. So that was my big thing. But that was fun too. The next Christmas, 83, was the first Christmas I had when my brother was born. My brother was born in 1983. And E.T. came out that year, if I remember correctly. So I was excited to have a little brother. So we got a lot of E.T. stuff that year. What kind of happened was, this was the first year I had a little brother. So my mom grew up in a very competitive household with her siblings. She had 5 other siblings growing up. So my mom was like, you're going to share all your gifts. So my brother and I got joint gifts that year. And for the foreseeable future, would continue to get like the same gifts. For the most part, I think my dad would always step in and get me something a little different. But my mom was like, you get the exact same gift, so no one will ever fight over anything. Which is tough when, there's a 5-year difference between you and your younger brother, right? So that was a lot of ET stuff that year. And I got some He-Man toys, if I remember right. 83. 84 was the last Christmas we'd have together as a family. I remember that was the Christmas my parents fought a lot, Hey, by the way, folks, don't feel too bad about this stuff. Like, I've made my amends a long time ago, like, all things considered, I had a pretty easy childhood considering a lot of the rest of the world. So I was in the first grade, 1984. I got my first Mask toy. That's what I wanted. Transformers and Mask. Mask was, how do I say that? Mask was like G.I. Joe, but with vehicles that transformed into other vehicles. So, vehicles that turn into other vehicles. So, Ghostbusters came out the year, but there was no Ghostbusters stuff to get. I got a sticker book. I remember Ghostbusters sticker book, which I really dug. So, and what else? That Christmas, my grandpa called pretending to be Santa Claus, but I knew it was my grandpa. I'm trying to figure like what I exactly figured out. I think it was the year before. The year before I'd figured out the Santa Claus was my dad. Sorry, folks, 1 second. Because Santa Claus had the exact same handwriting as my dad. My dad wrote, he owned his own security company. So he wrote all of his reports using a pencil, like a stencil, a writing stencil. So all of Santa Claus stuff was, and he'd write all in capitals. So it was like, from Santa. So I figured that math out, I think, the year before. Fast forward to 1985. That was the year my parents got a divorce. Around the earlier part of the year. Around spring or so of 85. So when I got out of the first grade, we got split up. My father got custody of my brother, and my mother had custody of me, which was weird in the 80s, but that's how it worked out. And I went to I lived with my mom. We moved from Lakeside to National City, which is like an hour's away near Mexico. And, I was like, the teacher spoke English and I spoke English, but most of the kids spoke Spanish, which was a culture shock to me. That was the year Santa Claus the movie came out. So this was weird. I had a hard time doing the math on this because for me, that year was like 2 or 3 different years, but it was 1 year. So little kid memories work strangely because I remember moving to National City during the summer, and I went to summer school or summer daycare, and I had these teenage girls were like my babysitters or something. So they'd walk me to that, and then I started school where they went to an elementary near that daycare, which had these weird beehives. It had these bees. Bees were everywhere. I had this crazy teacher, right? This old lady who would give us coloring assignments, and it would always be based around like things that were white, like clouds and sheep. And she would feel the paper to make certain you put down white crayon. And if you didn't actually put white crayon on the paper, you got docked a grade. She'd be sitting there feeling the paper to make certain we actually used the white crayons. It's weird. But I went from that to another school, second grade year. With a different after-school daycare program. And then my mom and that guy, my mom and her boyfriend at the time that I was living with, they split, and I lived with my grandpa that Christmas. So between June and Christmas, I had 2 different schools. 3 different schools in like a 6-month period. So it really messed with my head to kind of remember that stuff. But I got a transformer that year. I got the what's the paramedic transformer from G1, the white. I got that one. And a bunch of Santa Claus coloring books. And Santa Claus the movie with Dudley Moore. So 1986, my mom took off. So that was the Christmas my mom left me on her doorstep. It was a weird Christmas too, because she got my brother and I the exact same gifts when my brother was in kindergarten or preschool. So like all my coloring books were based around my brother. Like it was like, learn your alphabet, and I'm already like going into the 3rd grade. Like, I know how to read and shit, Mom. Like, this is. So it was weird. It was a weird Christmas. It was all learning how to write and spell your own name books. So I don't know. And my mom was a troubled person. So she left me on a doorstep, and that, look, I mean, it was my father, so there was that benefit. But it's a weird image when you can remember the car driving off, right? So, not the happiest of Christmas. Christmas 1987, I was in the 4th grade. My dad didn't spend a lot of time asking me things like what I wanted. In my head, I really wanted Transformers toys, and yeah, that Metropolis, that city Transformer toy, which I knew I never was going to get, but you know, as a kid, that's what I wanted. And we had these giant boxes under the tree. My dad got a tree. It was the last year my dad got a tree. And, and well, it wasn't the last year. I think the next year was. But I thought that was the Transformer Mega City, whatever it was called, Mega something. And they were all wooden toys. My dad, bless his heart, wanted us to have toys similar to what he had when he was a kid. And so my father got my brother and I the exact same toys. They were wooden toys. Wooden ducks, wooden train with these little like extensions you latch on, and one said my name and one said my brother. So it was wooden toys. Wooden toys. Interesting note though, we went to a Christmas party that was being held by some friends of my father who had just gotten married, and their kids had Dragon Warrior. So that was the first year I played my first RPG that Christmas party, Dragon Warrior. And changed my life, that game. Really did. I mean, like, I love Super Mario Brothers, and that was an important game to me, but Dragon Warrior was like the first time I felt like I went to another universe, and I was like leveling up, and I could just do whatever I wanted and explore, and like that was a big deal to me. We got 18 minutes, so I'm gonna have to probably make this a 2 or 3 part thing, right? So 1988, I'm in the 5th grade. My mom came back. Hey, I thought it was 89, but it turns out it was 88. So she was gone for 2 years, and for me, it was just, as a kid, it may as well have been 10 years, right? Time moves so slowly. I don't have a strong recollection of gifts that year, honestly. I was just happy my mom was back. And, yeah, I remember going to her house with her husband, and like we'd roast marshmallows and stuff. So my mom always kept things pretty simple. Like we'd get the Christmas cups that McDonald's would have. Like they'd have these holiday themed Garfield cups or something. Like she'd get that kind of stuff. So, and then we'll get to 1989. So 1989 was the year Batman came out. It was I was in the 6th grade, or just starting the 6th grade, and all I wanted was Batman stuff, man. And luckily, I did get a copy of Batman on VHS for Christmas. But that Christmas was weird. Like my mom and her husband had moved into our house. So my father rented out his bedroom to his ex-wife and her new husband. And her husband's name was Ed, who I'm still very close with to this day. And so my mom did not plan that Christmas very well. And that was the first year she really, I think, bought gifts. So all of the gifts were basically the exact same gifts I had gotten in 1986. They were all these like preschool kindergartner coloring books. And like she started wrapping things around the middle of the day, and she drank a lot, so the gifts rolled out around midnight, Christmas Day, 10 o'clock. No, it was 10 o'clock, I remember. And they were all the same gifts my brother and I got, and they were for like 4-year-olds. It was like your first crossword puzzle. So, but I got a copy of Batman, which that's all I gave a shit about. But yeah, that taught me a good lesson that Christmas, that my mom cannot be trusted. She's doing the best she could, but she wasn't all there, my mom. At the time I was a little bit let down, but I just think I solved this problem a year or two later. So we got time for one more. That 1990 was the last Christmas my mom lived with us. Desert Storm, the war in Iraq, had broken out, the first one. And her husband, Ed, was in the Army Reserve since Vietnam. So he came back he was gone from August, but he got back for Christmas. And we had one of my second cousins was a Marine, just at a basic, who was staying with us for a week or so. And sadly, my mom and Ed got into a huge fight, and she had him thrown out the house on Christmas Day, because she was dating someone else. And folks, this is stuff I never talk about, but my mom's gone, so God rest her soul. And the fact of the matter is, like, my Christmases were always, up until this, I think after this point, they were fairly stress-free, but my mom and Christmas was just a tumultuous period. She'd be amazing on one level. Like, we'd watch all the Christmas cartoons, like Garfield and Alf and whatever else was on. Muppet Family Christmas, and she listened to Karen Carpenter music, and she loved the decorations, but she just turned it into a giant drama fest. So sadly, Ed, we had the sheriffs at my house on Christmas Day. But that year I did ask for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie on VHS, and Santa showed up with it. That was also the first year I saw Christmas Vacation. I think it had come out the year before, but National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, so I watched that, but that was a pretty stressful Christmas. And my mom would move out a month or two later, so that's Christmases 81 through 1990. And on tomorrow's episode, I'll cover the remainder of my childhood Christmases for posterity. I'll probably put this list here too in the show notes, so they're there, But I hope you all had the happiest of Christmases you could have, and you spent time with your friends and family. And thanks for hanging out again for the last year here on SketchCraft. And I promise you all, the next year will be even better than last. Some pretty exciting things I'm hoping I'll be able to announce this year. And pretty proud to be working on some of this stuff. So this is it, folks. It is January 2nd, 2018. I've got my brain coffee here, and I am going to get to work. Happy New Year.